Today's a memorable day in history for women's rights. Sierra Whaley is in studio to tell us why. Sierra?
We commemorate Women's Equality Day on August 26th of every year. It dates back to 1920 when a constitutional amendment was ratified, giving women the right to vote. We talked with educators to learn about the work that's changed women's rights.
It's a complicated story, but despite those flaws and omissions, the passage of the 19th Amendment was very important, the single largest extension of voting rights in American history.
The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. That's the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. After the last of the required 36 states ratified the amendment in 1920, it opened up many doors for American women.
The 19th Amendment and related state laws also ensured that women could run for public office and serve on juries.
Sheila McDonald is deputy director at the Maine State Museum. A past exhibit there was dedicated to the suffrage period in Maine. She says this pivotal moment for women's rights came with challenges, and representation was a big factor, even during the advocacy period.
Sometimes it seemed like it was all sort of white upper-class women, but there were also some really important African-American women who did incredible amounts of work to ensure that the vote was extended to them.
However, African-American women and men couldn't vote until 45 years later. In 1920, Native Americans didn't have citizenship. Native Americans living on reservations in Maine couldn't vote until 1954. McDonald says the story of the 19th Amendment shows all aspects of what it took to get where we are today.
And that is very important for us to understand, that these things are never simple. There are always complications that we can learn from and try to do things better the next time around.
The museum's exhibit includes photos, newspaper clippings, and so much more that highlighted the work being done in Maine.
Noted suffrage speakers such as Susan B. Anthony came to Maine. Hundreds of pro-suffrage petitions were submitted to but weren't acted on by the Maine legislature, and community pro-suffrage groups were organized. And I love this ad of Susan B. Anthony coming to Ellsworth to speak.
Another powerful piece in the museum is this photo enlargement that dates from 1874. It's a float in a procession commemorating the 100th anniversary of the settlement of Bethel, Maine.
The float is titled "The Coming Woman," and you can see a sign there that says Women's Suffrage. And 16 young girls are on the float, dressed in white, representing Maine's 16 counties.
Women fought for their voice for generations. McDonald says as she learned more about the suffrage period in Maine, she was moved by the fact that women never gave up, no matter what walk of life they came from.
It started in Maine in the 1850s, and really was a very, very impressive effort with a lot of ups and downs. The Civil War came in the middle of it. World War I, opposing groups formed, but somehow it all sustained itself nationally as well as here in Maine. And it was really such an important effort. And it really gave me a sense of how important the vote is.
The Maine State Museum is currently undergoing renovations, so the exhibit is not currently on display. However, if you want more information or lesson material, you can follow the link on our website.